Welcome to another episode of Launching Logistics, where we explore the cutting-edge topics shaping the world of supply chain, transportation, and logistics. I'm your host, Jim Becker, and today we have a truly insightful conversation ahead with Holly LaBoda, co-founder and partner of Luminaries Consulting. Holly's expertise in sales strategy and talent development in the logistics space has made her a sought-after leader and advisor. We'll dive deep in her work, but before we get into our conversation, let's talk about something that's becoming increasingly crucial in our industry: the power of leadership and culture in driving business success. In logistics, leadership isn't about mapping operations or staying on top of market trends. No, it's about fostering a culture that encourages growth, accountability, and adaptability. Many logistics companies, whether they're asset-based or brokers, have a similar challenge when it comes to sustaining growth. They often focus heavily on operations and sales metrics, but sometimes overlook one of the most important factors for long-term success: a healthy, empowered workforce. A strong leadership team that's capable of creating a positive work culture can be the difference between a company that stagnates and one that continues to innovate, thrive, and even challenge the market conditions. One of the reasons this topic resonates so well with today's episode is because Holly LaBoda has spent years helping companies in logistics build that kind of culture. Her consulting work focuses on talent development and aligning sales strategies with a company's broader mission. She's not just about hitting sales targets, she's about helping organizations realize their potential by fostering leaders who can inspire, coach, and guide their teams to success. It's about creating a work environment where people can shine, glow, and contribute to the company's future in a meaningful way. Today, Holly will share her journey into consulting and how her company, Luminaries Consulting, was born from a deep desire to help organizations in logistics become better versions of themselves. Whether it's working with brokerages or asset-based companies, Holly's approach is all about tailoring solutions that work for the unique needs of each business. We'll also hear about her experience with developing sales teams, creating a learning culture, and how leadership plays a key role in sustaining a company's competitive edge. If you're a business leader, sales professional, or just someone looking to better understand the connection between leadership, culture, and a growth in logistics, this episode is for you. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Holly LaBoda and hear more about how she's helping logistics companies take their sales and leadership to the next level. But you're still coaching, yes?
Yeah. Still doing Luminaries. So we do like sales, talent development, coaching, consulting, sales strategy, all that.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit about Luminaries.
Yeah, so that we are a sales strategy and talent development company that focuses mostly on the logistics space. It's myself and my business partner who both came from logistics and work with all different kinds of logistics companies, helping them to get better sales results.
Well, that's awesome. And now, how long have you been doing that now, being a sales coach?
We have been doing that for just about 8 years, actually. I just had to do some mental math, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I can't believe it's been that long already.
And then TMSA, how long have you been actually associated with that association?
We joined TMSA in 2019, so 5 years or so, I guess. And then I pretty quickly, I think, started volunteering with them on education committee, and then maybe a year or so later, then joined the board.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So are you only on the education committee, or are you on other committees also?
I co-chair the education committee, and then I am also on like a couple of task force, like the sales strategy task force and things like that. But it's mostly the education committee and the board that I commit time to.
Well, that's great. So when you're dealing with, helping companies, are you mostly helping companies on the asset side, on the brokerage side, or outside of that field?
We have a blend, but we do a lot of the brokerage companies because that's what we know. And sales is just different on a brokerage side than it is with the asset side. So there's a lot of brokerage companies in our portfolio. We also have several asset-based organizations, and interesting, like surprising niche, I guess, although it shouldn't be surprising, is we work with several companies that with the like logistics division of an asset-based company because then all of their kind of internal structure and support is focused on the asset side and the logistics is totally different and they need some help.
Well, that's awesome. So, would you say that it's an equal mix of 33 from outside of logistics, 33% asset based, 33% brokerage, or is it something different?
Like in terms of number of customers, we're probably like 80% logistics versus others. And then within that, maybe it's, 60, 70% brokerage versus asset. But I'm totally like just guessing at those numbers.
Well, your
But
guessing is pretty accurate for you because your guessing is closer than I would predict, right?
yeah.
So, and that it's really helpful because it just gives us a little bit of better view into what you are doing and you've been doing for 8 years. And I've talked to you several times over the years, and your core and your passion is really in coaching. So, in that, are you mostly putting together seminars where you're doing like a 1 day, a 4 hour, maybe a full week, a weekend of sales coaching? Are you doing more one on one coaching? Are you doing more of like, really, here's our learning management system, and go on in there and you can go ahead and learn through those trainings, and then I'll help you out after that. Like, give us an idea of what that looks like, seeing that 80% or thereabouts, 80% of your business comes from the brokerage world. If a broker calls you up and says, "Hey, I need some help on my sales training," what is it and how does it look like?
Yeah. Well, it looks different for every customer, kind of depending on what they need, what their goals are, what kind of support and kind of how ingrained they want to get with us. But my favorite, and usually what we recommend is when we join in a little bit of a partnership with an organization. We have kind of this process that we go through of kind of analyzing their current growth capabilities, helping them figure out kind of a short-term acceleration plan and then figuring out kind of longer term optimization strategies. So it looks different kind of depending on their current state, but it's usually a blend of all of those things that you just said. So we have some internal things, we have some things that we've developed that are kind of in our, I'll use the term LMS. It's a light LMS. It's our online learning platform. We do a lot of custom stuff for organizations. And then there's a lot of like leader work. So kind of working with that sales leader, working with the sales manager, whatever that looks like, to figure out kind of what are those strategies? How can you help your team move further down that line? And then some one-on-one stuff with the team too, or group stuff. So all of the above is the answer.
Awesome. Have you guys developed your own like selling system, or do you use one of the other ones that are out there? And if so, which one?
We have kind of a blend of a way that we do things. So we don't have like a system that we subscribe to necessarily because it just really depends on who your customers are, what your go-to-market strategy is. Personally, I think if I subscribe the same selling system to like a very transactional kind of high churn brokerage company as I would to somebody who's asset based and consultative, like I probably wouldn't be doing my job very well. So we take a different approach, kind of depending on those two factors. But we pull from a lot of the greats in terms of different things that we use and that kind of stuff. So,
Well, that's great, Holly. So what's one of the one things that really makes you be happy? Like just lights up your day when it happens throughout the day?
oh man, professional or personal?
One of each.
Hmm. Well, it's probably expected, but I have little kids, so three-year-old and a 5-year-old. And when they are like surprisingly like kind to each other or something like that. It's such like, I love when I just get to kind of step back and watch them do something like really wonderful or really hard or really nice individually or with each other. And you're like, you weren't even involved in that. You're just watching this little person like come to fruition. Like that's my favorite. And actually it's kind of the same professionally when I think about the folks that I work with. Like we we work somewhat differently potentially than some other consultants. Like my goal is not to have a 20-year consulting relationship with an organization. Like I want to get in, I want to help them build their capabilities, like help them soar, right? And then step out or move on to a different area of focus with them. So when like you start with something and you help them build some capabilities and then they're just kind of like off and running, like that's kind of the same moment when you step back and you're like, hey, look what you did. Good job. So kind of the same actually.
Absolutely. Isn't it great how, even though it's personal and work, we both see that it brings us right to our true north, whatever that
Hmm.
is.
Yeah.
Like when I'm with someone, everything else around me stops
Mhm.
and I'm just with you,
Yeah.
right? Where when things happen, I make sure that I plan my time accordingly. And when I'm late, I'm late. And that's it. There's no story. There might be something I'm dealing with. There, like this morning, there's this bad car accident, and accidents always happen when that sun's either coming up in the morning
Oh, yes.
or when the sun's going down. And it happens almost any time when I'm out, when that sun is right on the horizon. And I just always see a car accident somewhere. And
Hmm.
it's just something to be mindful of. But the main thing on this is being present to that. A lot of people see that horizon and they're not present. The same thing when they're in front of someone, like I'm with you, Holly. I'm fully present, fully engaged to whatever's going on over there. And so that's where, everything else blanks out for me. Where before I was always on guard, I was always wondering what's going on or who's the next person I need to talk to. I only need to be here.
That is definitely a goal of mine to get a little bit better at that. I feel like it's definitely like a season of my life where I'm drawn in multiple different directions at every given moment, but it's part of it just, self control a little bit to stay kind of just keep your head where your feet are, I think is the expression that people use.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know what I'm really curious about, Holly, is I'd love for you to share a little bit about your journey into consulting and how Luminaries Consulting was actually born. I'd love to hear that. Like what really inspired you? What got you onto that journey where you're like, this is me. This is what me and my partner are going to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be happy to share. Thanks for asking. It's been a long journey. Like it's been a long time coming. So I'm so happy to be kind of like truly living my dream right now. My Luminaries came to be, or kind of the conceptually was born like many, many years ago. I was in my 20s. I was kind of starting my career and really like even in college. And then as I started working in the workforce, I'm like, this is the type of work that I like to do. Right. And it's all kind of actually surrounding what I said, those like happiest, most fulfilling moments in my life is I love seeing other people do things well. And if I am part of that journey, that's awesome. And what I called it when I was, at the foundation of Luminaries, is like helping people realize their potential, like realizing it in two ways, understanding what they're capable of, and then actually being able to kind of see that come to fruition. And that is what I considered really kind of my life's purpose. So Luminaries was born from that. Like I wanted to help more people do that more often. And Luminaries is like conceptually all about how do you let people, teams, individuals be their best selves, be their best, like as a group, like shine their light, I guess, in like the cliche way of like thinking about a luminary, but kind of stand out from a crowd, be the best. So that's where the name came from, but it's really the consulting role, that job that I wanted to do was all about how do I help more people succeed in whatever that looks like for them. So I spent more time in the corporate world after that. Like I said, I started this about 8 years ago, but once I got to that point where like, okay, now I've had enough of doing this internally at organizations. I want to do this for more people and kind of expand the impact. That was the goal of Luminaries.
That's awesome. So the origin of the name, there's a lot of different ways I can go with luminaries, right?
Mhm.
And I have a plethora of luminaries, right? Are you getting it from the source of light to illume? Is that where you've gotten that, or is it something else?
Yeah, that's where it came from. So it was really about how do I, think about you, Jim. I think you're a luminary in a lot of ways. Like, how do I make more people who are doing so well that they are literally like shining? Like, other people are noticing how fulfilled they are in their job, how well they're doing, how happy they are, how they're helping other people and lighting the way for them. So that was the idea. Like, how do we create more luminaries in the world? More people that stand out, more people that light the way for others, more people that show people how wonderful it can be.
That's awesome. That's just great. And there's also luminaries that usually wait for the chosen one who is worthy to teach their knowledge to. So there's another piece of luminaries as well, just some archaic knowledge that I have somewhere in my head somewhere.
Yeah, I love
Um,
that.
with me, I started doing a network promise, and I just created it back in 2019. I think it was May of 2019, where I decided every day in May I was just going to go ahead and do a walk around my office and talk. And it stuck so well. And I had so many people call me and say, thank you so much for all the information that you illumined on me. Um, that light reflected on and on and on and still going today. And I never stopped. I did it for, the whole month of May, even on weekends. And then still today, I'm still doing those recordings and putting that information out there, really just to edify and educate people, to bring them to another level if that's what they want.
Right. I love that. People that I worked with were having like this kind of hoarding talent kind of thing. Like you build a great team and you don't want it to leave you kind of thing. So people were kind of protecting some of the most talented people. And I was working with a couple of leaders on a mindset shift there. So what if your success as a leader was not about the talented team that you hold within your arms, but the leaders that you create and the kind of like tree that you're building, all these leaders that you're kind of growing up and sending on and watching them bloom. And that is a different shift for people. There are definitely people that already think that way, and there are people that you have to kind of work there. But that's kind of what I'm hearing you say, Jim, is like part of your success is seeing how you can inspire other people and help them grow. And that's I think why we connect, because I feel the same way.
Yeah. I really needed to have you on my podcast because you're an amazing leader, amazing human being that is a leader that exercises your leadership. It's part of your natural self-expression. I just love that about you.
Yeah, I try. So thank you.
Absolutely. I love to hear one of your success stories where you had a client that really came out stronger and better than ever before after your consulting.
Well, let's see. I hope that all of my clients fit that those parameters. We work with a lot of folks in different ways. I think they're all at different points of the journey, so it's hard to pick like one favorite. But I do have a customer that we've worked with for a number of years, and we're actually at a really interesting point in our journey that some people, some consultants might be scared of this point. I'm really excited about this point. Is like this is maybe like the fourth year of our relationship, and we've been working on kind of getting them from very operationally focused to more kind of account growth focused. Like, how do we figure out how to grow this current business instead of just executing this business? That is a very common thing that we come in and help some folks with. But they were, at this certain point in their journey. We've been working over a couple of years, and they're at a point where you're like, okay, you've made this leap. Now we're ready for a different kind of leap. So we are hopefully going to start working with them differently. We might stop doing some of the things that we've done before. That's the part that some people I think would be kind of scared about, working yourself out of a job. I love working myself out of a job with clients. So we helped them get to that transition. They're ready to take some of that on their own, and we will help them with something else. And that's just so satisfying. And there's a lot of wonderful like results that have come out of that work, but just kind of seeing them become so ingrained in a culture shift difference, and then ready to take that stuff on their own, and then I can help them with something else. That's very satisfying.
Yeah, you hit something really important right there, Holly. And that's in order to add something, to start doing something, one must stop doing something to open up that space. I always say there's 168 hours in a week, and a lot of people keep adding and adding and adding and adding and adding and adding and adding, and then they get burnt out. Or their accountabilities or responsibilities start falling apart right at the seam, and then they just crash and burn. And what you just said was so important there, to stop something and give up that business and start anew, which is a new genesis, a new creation. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm lucky, I guess, fortunate I'm the kind of person that doesn't like doing the same thing over and over and over again, which is why consulting is nice for me. But it's even more satisfying for me. I'm like, great, we've done this for a while. It worked. Let's move on and let's tackle a new challenge with you. That's what I get really excited about. So yeah.
Speaking about excited, I love it because I can just feel it like as if you were right here with me right now. The excitement is so alluring, if you will. What's one of the things from last week that really gets you excited? What got you so excited last week that, hey, that's the money shot right there. I want that. And I want that every day when I'm working or in my personal life. What is it for you?
Well, last week was an interesting one. I have a 5-year-old that started kindergarten last week, so it's a big week personally. So that was really exciting, helping her through all of that. But work wise, let's see. I mean, I just started with a brand new customer that was starting this journey that I described. That's like my favorite kind of way of working with folks, kind of helping them analyze their growth, kind of a short-term acceleration plan and then a long-term optimization plan. So they're doing that right now. And so I've kind of just had a chance to really dig into what is working and where there's some opportunities for improvement within their organization. And that's so fun. It's like something brand new. There's some things that a lot of organizations struggle in similar areas based on where they are in kind of their growth cycle. But there's always some unique things in every organization. And I love to kind of dig in and learn about those and give them some ideas, even small things that make really big impact for things they can start doing differently to not change the things that are working, but just kind of accelerate beyond some of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we all run into roadblocks, even for ourselves, being able to tell the truth to ourselves. What trends are you seeing in companies where you come across someone on a team that really isn't willing to change your budget all from the past? And they want to keep doing it the way they've always done it because it's always worked. And then here comes Holly and say, no, 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 no. We're going to change things up. I know you're used to putting your makeup on that way or doing your hair that way or your processes at work, and your business has been flat for the last 3, 4 years. How do you handle those people when you come across them as a client?
Right. I mean, most organizations have some of those people, right? Business would be a lot easier if it didn't involve people, but most people, whether they say it or not, most people don't love change because it shakes things up. You kind of get used to your process, you get used to your routine of showing up at the gym at 5:45. You don't want to change it. So we expect that, number one, like we expect there to be some resistance when we plan for it. But that is also why we typically try to engage the full team in kind of the current state and then creating the plan. People are more likely to want to execute a plan if they're involved in the creation of it. It's how we create the buy-in. So when we're doing this customer that I was just talking about with last week, when we're in this growth analyzer phase is what we call it. I talk with all of them. Like we have individual conversations, or if it's a big team, I talk with some of them. Individual conversations to figure out what is working well for them, where they see opportunities for the whole company, what personal wins would look like for them, like what change would help them do their job better so they have a stake in it. And then they are also kind of weighing in on the survey and the priorities. And then we get together in kind of this workshop to say, great, here's what you all told me. What do we want to do about it? So they're making that choice too. You're still going to have some naysayers, but if we involve them in the upfront, we find it creates a lot more buy-in.
Yeah, I mean, anyone listening to this right now, I mean, Holly, just working with her through my selling system, you can see, Holly, how I've brought you through this as we're talking, just to really have this whole podcast. And it really gives me an opportunity to ask you about shipping companies and brokerage companies. As you're dealing with all of us, what's different from all of us, the 80%, versus consulting a perspective?
Logistics it's a different, unique industry that we live in. Like it's so market driven. Not all industries are that. It's so dynamic. The people that make it up are different. The folks that you're selling to, all your buyers are different than other industries. So just that in the nature of itself is different than our work that we do in other industries. Like we have manufacturing customers, they're dealing with very different things than we are. So that just makes it kind of challenging and unique. But in general, like the ability to be successful regardless of what is happening in the market is a unique intricacy of logistics that we spend a lot of time on. I think so many people feel like slaves or victims of what's going on in the market. Like it's really fun to ride the roller coaster when it's high and like you have all the power, right? But you still have to be successful and not just like wait for it to come back when it's down. And there are ways to do that, or at least not be quite as impacted by it would be a first step there. So that's what's a little bit different about working with logistics versus other companies.
Well, that's awesome. Um, One thing I wanted to touch base, both you and I are pretty similar in a lot of ways. I started 3PLLMS.com some time ago, probably 10 years ago, I'm going to guess. But what inspired you to create Logistics Sales Academy? How does it serve professionals in the logistics field?
Two big reasons that we wanted to start it. We did eventually start it like right when COVID started because we knew we needed something like this. We just hadn't prioritized it. And then we're like, okay, now everyone needs this and we're not traveling right now. So let's just like do this because all our customers are around it, just like everybody. But that was the kind of the timing and the catalyst of it. But the reasons that we wanted to start it beforehand were two things is that we work with a lot of like mid-market, some larger companies, but a lot of the smaller companies that were talking to us before we started this, the solutions that we had in place, especially for skill development, just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense for them to take their entire team off the desk for 2 days to fly us there to do skill development. There had to be a different way to do it. So smaller teams was one part of it, but then the other part of it is that kind of time away, like time spent on learning. And we actually have seen so much success in people kind of taking more like of a bite-sized learning approach. So let's focus on a particular skill. Let's learn one small thing at a time and let's apply it to your business before we just like go on and do something else. We see a lot more ROI on kind of breaking things up that way versus, sitting in a training room for a week and then like being so overwhelmed when you go back that you have no time to apply anything, so two big reasons, the time off the desk and making it work for smaller teams and geographically dispersed teams.
That's awesome. Plus, I'll add one more in there, Holly. Sometimes you don't want to do the same thing over and over again because you've taught it for 8 years straight, right?
Right. That's the selfish part for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. And I think we're all kind of like that. We're all kind of wanting to create newly because what was yesterday is not today, right? I mean, things change. I've been in this since 1991. I've been in the brokerage world and asset world. And today in 2024, things have evolved. I want to say there's probably 4 to 5 different transformations along the way. The last 4 years being the biggest one that I've ever seen, which has been quite interesting in itself. So, moving forward, is there anything else you'd like to share? Love to hear how people can get a hold of you as well as we bring this to an end.
Oh, sure. Yes, I'm always ready to have a conversation with folks. So if people want to talk about kind of what's going on in their business and have somebody listen and maybe get some free advice, you can find me on LinkedIn, our website, luminariesconsulting.com, or the Logistics Sales Academy. All of those have all the meeting links and all this stuff if you want to set up a conversation, or just shoot me an email, Holly at Luminaries Consulting, and we can talk.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Holly. I really enjoyed being with you today, and you're just amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to see you again soon, and God bless you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Wow, what a fantastic conversation with Holly. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Launching Logistics as much as I did. Holly's insight into leadership, sales strategy, and in the importance of developing talent really resonated with me. And I'm sure she struck a chord with many of you as well. Her experience and unique approach to coaching companies to not just grow, but to grow a sustainable, people-focused way is a reminder of how crucial it is to foster a strong internal culture. One of the most major takeaways from today's discussion is the idea that leadership isn't just about achieving results. No, it's about empowering people to succeed. Whether it's helping a team member grow into their full potential or guiding a company towards long-term success, the human element is always at the core. Holly talked about the importance of working with sales teams to enhance not just their skills, but also their ability to think strategically and embrace that change. That's something we can all apply in our own work, regardless of what part of the logistics industry we're in. Another key takeaway was the change. While often uncomfortable, it is necessary for any company to stay competitive. It's easy to get stuck in old habits or the familiar routines that we're all used to. But as Holly mentioned, being able to step back, assess what's working, and then adapt to a new circumstance is so crucial. It's not just about keeping up with the market trends, no, but about being proactive and seeking out those areas where improvement can really make a difference. This is something especially relevant in our industry, especially today. We're the logistics and supply chain companies of the world. This is our landscape. It is constantly evolving. Whether you're in sales, operations, or management, adaptability is essential. I also appreciated Holly's perspective on the importance of involving your team in shaping the direction of a company. As leaders, we can't operate in silos or expect top-down directives to really drive success. Engaging your people in the planning process, listen to their input, and making them part of the solution fosters a real good sense of ownership and accountability. This in turn really leads to greater buy-in and ultimately better results, as a great reminder that leadership is not a solo journey at all, but a collaborative effort. What really struck me was how Holly's commitment to creating lasting change. It's not all about quick fixes or short-term gains. Her focus is on building a foundation that allows companies to continue thriving long after she steps away. That's the kind of sustainable impact we should all aim for in our own careers and business. As we wrap up, I want to thank Holly again for sharing her wealth of knowledge with us today. Her passion for helping others succeed is truly inspiring, and I know I'm walking away with a lot more valuable insights. And of course, a big thank you to you, our listeners. Your continued support of Launching Logistics keeps us going, and we hope these conversations help you push forward in your own professional journey. If you found today's episode helpful, please consider sharing it with your network. Leaving a review is great, and subscribing so that you don't miss out on future episodes. Until next time, remember to keep leading with intention, embrace that growth, and continue driving positive change in the logistics world. This is Jim Becker, signing off. Take care, everyone.